It holds up because it's not about something trivial. The Twilight Zone is about something profound, deeply profound.
What makes the Twilight Zone different from everything else?
Quality. It's good. Okay. The Twilight Zone is possibly the best television show ever made. I think there's an argument that can be made for that. Rod Serling never wanted to be a science fiction writer. He wanted basically to be the Arthur Miller of television. And when he was censored, when he couldn't write about politics, when he couldn't write about race, there were so many things he wanted to write about, and the censors just would not allow it. And his work, he felt his work was being turned into meaningless crap because of these limitations. He thought, well, if I do science fiction, maybe I can slide these things past and they won't notice what I'm actually doing. And that's worked. It worked exactly. He ended up writing 4 pilot scripts for The Twilight Zone before the show got greenlit. He was very determined to have that happen. And so I think it came from the fact that this was a man who had a lot to say and knew how to say it. Twilight Zone just isn't about the gimmick. The gimmicks are great and the twist endings and all of those things are wonderful. And the fact that it was science fiction and horror and fantasy allowed it to be universal in a way that had he just been writing about, you know, Medgar Evers or something, it wouldn't have been, you know, because then it would seem very dated. And the writers from that era of live television generally are not well known. You know, Tad Moselle or Reginald Rose or even Patty Chayefsky. Had Serling stayed in live TV and not created Twilight Zone, he'd probably be forgotten now, as good as Requiem for a Heavyweight was, or Patterns. But because he was forced to write in this wonderful genre and write on universal themes, fear, alienation, you know, loss of identity, it just created these amazing stories. And his scripts were so good that they would get the top actors who often wouldn't do television. And you got Bernard Herrmann and Jerry Goldsmith, these amazing composers, and George Clemens, this phenomenal cinematographer. It's just, you look at the best episodes of The Twilight Zone, and there are a lot of them, and you hold your breath. They're so beautiful in every way, and timeless, and they work. And even when you know what the story is, you're moved by these people. Because Rod had a genuine sympathy and empathy for the little guy, for someone working as a bank teller or a woman who's a secretary, or, you know, he's not writing generally about presidents or kings or wealthy people. He doesn't, even though he himself was one of the best paid writers in television, he's not fawning. He doesn't idolize the rich like some writers have. He's a regular guy. You can get the sense that he has this big heart. He really cares deeply, and he's coming from the heart. And again, when I was talking a few minutes ago about authenticity, you know, when you see Rod Serling on television, he's exactly that guy. I mean, I've seen videos of him teaching classes where he knew these wouldn't be broadcast, and he was absolutely himself, warm and funny and smart and caring. And that really comes across on Twilight Zone. This is a man saying, here's a story I want to tell and I'm sharing it with you. Or here's these other writers that I've brought aboard who have these wonderful stories to share with you. It's his gift to the audience. And it holds up because it's not about something trivial. The Twilight Zone is about something profound, deeply profound, and its meaning conveys to the younger generation as much as to the audience it was made for back in 1959.
Have you seen every episode?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
what would you say the top 5?
I have actually, when I started writing The Twilight Zone, it was Twilight Zone Companion. It was 2 years after Rod's death, and Carol Serling, his widow, was still living in the house in Pacific Palisades. His dog was there, this Irish setter, and all these, everything was exactly as he'd left. There was one room that was just the awards, the 6 Emmys and the Peabody Awards and on and on. And so in the garage, there were film cans, his film cans of Twilight Zone episodes, 16mm prints. It was part of his contract that he would get 2 prints of every episode because there was no VCRs, there was no home recording back then. So often I would go home with a stack of these film cans and put them on the projector, and they had the original commercials and the original coming attraction spots. And many of these had never even been put through a projector. They were just pristine. They were gorgeous. And so yeah, and there were 4 episodes that weren't in syndication. And then there was a season, 18 episodes that were hour-long episodes that weren't generally syndicated. Every now and then they'd pop up. But yeah, I had to do a little bit of pursuing some of these episodes that were not in the in the general audience. Though one of the funniest stories in that regard was that I was researching the Twilight Zone Companion, and this was just as VCRs were starting to become available for purchase, but they weren't widely available. So I recorded the episodes off the air on reel-to-reel tape. I'm on cassette tape, and Rod didn't have copies of every episode. It got more and more hit and miss as the seasons went on. And so at one point there were like, I think 2 episodes that I could just not, 2 or 3 episodes that they just never aired on KTLA, so, which was syndicating Twilight Zone. So I called the station manager and I said, listen, I'm doing a book on the Twilight Zone, and there's 3 episodes I need to see, and I want to find out when you're going to be airing them because I really need to see them. He said, well, which episodes are they? And I told him. He said, well, we'll broadcast them next week. So all of LA watched the episodes just because I needed to see them.
Oh, wow.
I thought he was going to just have me in and maybe screen them for me. But nope, everybody got to see them. And so that was really funny and wonderful. But it was great that I was able to produce the Blu-ray set and do 52 commentaries. And now, of course, I'm going to do the rest of them, the 104 that are left. And so people will be able to buy all of them. So they'll be able to hear everything I know about Twilight Zone and for all of the episodes. It's going to be great fun.
If you had to choose, what would be the top 5?
I love Walking Distance, which was Rod's personal favorite. It's about a man who goes back in time to his own childhood. It's a wonderful episode. On Thursday, We Leave for Home, which is a great episode that Rod wrote with James Whitmore. It's one of the hour ones. Eye of the Beholder, which is the woman whose head is wrapped in bandages, waiting to see if she's been made to look normal. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which is the Gremlin on the Wing with William Shatner that Richard Donner directed. It's a great episode. I mean, I could list 20. I mean, and It's a Good Life with Billy Mumy. That's a great one where he's got the power to terrorize a small town. But again, I could easily pick Death Ship, Miniature. There's so many. In Praise of Pip. It just goes on and on. Time at Last with Burgess Meredith as the last man on Earth. Week after week after week after week, it was an astonishing artistic feat what he was pulling off. It was no one has ever really equaled it, I don't think. I mean, I've been very, very lucky because I met Elaine when I think I just turned 20. And so that was perfection. That was great because, again, when she met me, I was just a little college student. There was no telling if I would accomplish anything. And she had faith in me. When I met her, I already knew she was wonderful. But, she was taking a big risk in me. And it worked out. But I've been very lucky because, think of all the people who, as kids, they want to be writers or directors or producers. They watch TV shows and they say, God, I'd like to be part of that world. I want to be on the other side of that glass of the TV screen. And I got to do that. I got to be that. I mean, my heroes were Rod Serling and Ray Bradbury because they were doing TV and books and movies. And I got to do all of that.